Welcome, my beautiful people. This is part 2 of random questions for biology paper 2, and we are using different questions from different past papers. So we have our first question. Figure 3.1 shows a cross section through a stem of a plant which had been previously dipped in a rider for 6 hours. So here, this question is under the topic of transport. So transport is a very important system because it talks of how the materials are moved within a living organism. Or we can just summarize that where there is life, there should be the transport. Now we have unlabeled parts. We have N, O, P, Q, and R. So according to the structure, this is a dicot plant. Then we have our first question, question A, Roman number 1. We want to identify the parts labeled N. So we want to give the name given to structure N, P, and Q. So N is this circular part here. So N is known as a cambium. We move on to P. P is this outside structure of the cambium, and this is known as a phloem. So remember, the phloem is outside, the xylem is inside. Then for Q, that is a xylem. So xylem inside, phloem outside. So that's a simple song that you can be using to identify these two structures in case they give you issues. Then we move on to Roman number 2. Which labeled part in figure 3.1 would be stained red? So here we are looking at a red dye. So a red dye is a solution. So is a solution which is in liquid state. So since it's a solution, we need to identify which part from the given structure transports solution. So when we look at the two vessels, which is the xylem and the phloem vessel, the vessel specified for transportation of solution is the xylem. So the part that would stain red is part Q. Then give a reason for your answer. So we can say because part Q transports solutions. Then B1, suggest 3 factors that would increase the rate of movement of the red dye in the stem when it is dipped in the red dye. So the first factor here is transpiration. So the transpiration process helps to move by creating what we call the transpiration pool. Then the second one, we need to also have some forces. There is adhesive force and also coercive force. So there are so many factors depending on the factors that you are able to remember when you are writing your exam. Then Roman number 2, name the process that will cause the movement of the red dye in the stem. So the process is transpiration pool. Okay, so we have our second question also under the same transportation system. And we are told figure 2.0 shows cells taken from a vesicular tissue in a plant. And to remind you, the system responsible for transportation in plants is called vesicular system, consisting of the vesicular bundle. Then we have some structures A, B, C, D, and E. So question A, Roman number 1, identify the specialized cell in figure 2.0. So this specialized cell, the whole thing here is called a phloem. Then Roman number 2, name one feature in figure 2.0 which enabled you to identify the specialized cells in A1 above. So there are so many features that we can give. So we can see that here we have the presence of companion cell. So whenever you see a companion cell, then it is a phloem. So presence of companion cell. Then also presence of sieve plates. So the sieve plates indicates that the structure is a phloem, and also presence of the sieve pores. Which letters on figure 2.0 corresponds to the following structures? So the nucleus. Now here we have the sieve part of this plant, part of this structure, this part here, and the sieve do not contains nucleus. So for a structure like phloem, the only cell where you can find the nucleus is the companion cell. So this part here on the companion cell is where we are expecting to have the nucleus, and as we can see, the nucleus is part A. So we can just say A. Then cytoplasm, that's D. So D is our cytoplasm. Give two functions of the cell labeled B. So B is a companion cell. What are the two functions? The first function of cell B is to provide energy. To provide energy to the phloem. So since phloem transports the manufactured food such as carbohydrate and proteins, they require energy to be transported from where they are manufactured, which are leaves, to the part where they are required. So that energy in transportation of these materials are produced or are given by the companion cell. Then the second one, we can say to help the plant respond to nutrient deficiency. So in a case where the plant is lacking some nutrients, for example phosphorus, the companion cell comes in, or it gives a signal to a plant telling it that it needs to absorb more of these nutrients from the cell. So that signaling comes from the companion cell. Then we have question C. With reference to the specialized cell in figure 2.0, name, number 1, the process by which substances are transported in the specialized cell. Since we are looking at phloem, so we are told to give the process, the name given to the process by which the manufactured food are transported by this cell. So here, so that is a translocation. Suggest two substances transported by the specialized cell. So here we have carbohydrates, and also proteins. So we move on to our third question. Figure 4.0 shows the longitudinal section of a stem. So hope you can zoom in and you're able to see where these letters are pointing. So we have a vesicular system with 3 letters S, T and U. Then we have a pith, we have the bud, we have the stem in general. Then A1, which letters in figure 4.0 corresponds to a cambium, xylem, and phloem. So remember, I told you that xylem is on the inside, phloem on the outside. So the letter showing the structure on the inside here is letter S. So letter S is our xylem. Then T is the middle, so cambium is the middle. Then U, the outside is U. So the way this vesicular system is like this. So let's look at a two-lane road like this. So there is this dotted line in between the two lanes, indicating that one lane is for the cars going up, then the other lane for the cars going down. So now, to at least provide order on the road, we need something in between to demarcate, to indicate that this is the lane for going forward, this is the lane for the cars that are coming back. So that part in between is what we call the cambium. So I just wanted to give you guys the picture of what a cambium is. So a cambium is a structure in between the xylem. So the xylem is a vessel transporting water and mineral salts. Then we have the phloem transporting food. Now to separate the two, we have the cambium in between. Explain the functions of S and T in the plant. So function of S, what is S? Xylem. We say to transport. So to transport water and minerals and mineral salts from the soil to the leaves. So the reason why these are transported to the leaves so that food can be manufactured. Remember, the leaves act as the industrial area for the manufacturing of the food that we eat. Then functions of T. T is a cambium. So we can say to play a role in the secondary growth. So we have primary growth and secondary growth. So primary growth has to do with germination. Then the secondary growth has to do with the increase in size, like the height of the plant, and also in okay, let's just say primary is focusing mainly increasing the height, how tall or short the plant is. Then for secondary, it looks at like the width or the girth of a plant. Then number B1, which letter corresponds to the structure which needs companion cells to function properly? Remember, we said phloem needs companion cell because companion cell is what is giving the cells the energy required. So here, this is letter U. Which letter in figure 4.0 corresponds to a structure in which substances can either move up or down? So we have the direction of moving up or down. So remember, for xylem, it's only one direction. It's always from the ground to the leaves. But for phloem, it can be down or up, depends on the demands of the food substances. So it's still U here. We move on to our fourth question. Figure 3 shows a longitudinal section through a root tip. So we have vesicular bundle, then structure G, H, I, and J. Identify the parts labeled G. So where is our G? So the G is this one. So these are our G. So these are known as the root hairs. Then what of our J? Our J is this structure here covering the sensitive part of the root. So this is called a root cap. which labeled part in figure 3 is responsible for generating new cells. So if we are to summarize growth begins with cell division, and cell division is just the multiplication of cells. Is where one cell divides to form new daughter cells. So the increase in numbers of cells happens with cell divisions. Then the same cells that undergoes cell divisions should undergo what we call cell elongation. So here at cell elongation, the same cells now must grow bigger in size by absorbing water. So cell elongation deals with the increase in size of the cells. Then the third one is cell specialization. So at this stage is where now the cells becomes specialized, where we have now cells will separate to form the xylem, some will form the cambium. We are going to have phloem. We can mean as we want. So we are saying the first one is cell division, which is the increase in number. The second one, elongation, the cells grow bigger in size. The third one, the third one is cell specialization, where they become specialized according to their function. So figure 3 is responsible for generating for cell division. So cell division occurs at structure I. So we can say I. Question C, region H is responsible for cell differentiation. So cell differentiation is the other name for cell specialization. So here is where now the cells become specialized in one function. So apart from vesicular bundles, state 2 other cells types differentiated by region 8. So we can have what we call parenchyma, we can have collenchyma, also sclerenchyma. So you also need to know the functions of these cells that we mentioned here. Roman number 2, state 2 types of cells found in a vesicular bundle. So for a vesicular bundle, remember it's specifically for transportation. So transportation and a bit of secondary growth. Transportation. So transportation has to do with the two vessels. So the first one is the xylem. So the xylem, which transports water and salt. We have also phloem, transporting manufactured food. Roman number 3, which named type of cells in situ allows movement of substances upward and downward depending on the need. So that's a phloem. So up and down is a phloem. Suggests one meristematic structure not in the diagram responsible for bringing about secondary growth. So that is a cambium, remember. So when it generates new cells, then there will be an increase in the size. Okay, so we have another question. Figure 2.0 shows the alimentary canal of a human being. So here is a digestive system. So digestion looks at the breaking down of larger molecules of food. So larger into smaller. So we have macro into micro. And there is a reason why the food must be broken down into smaller, so that there is an easy absorption process, because there are smaller holes that are found in the alimentary canal, specifically in the small intestines during the absorption. So here we have food like proteins, So proteins are in larger sizes and they need to be broken down into the smaller ones known as amino acids. Then we have the carbs, which is carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates needs to be broken down into glucose. Then we also have fats. The fats need to be broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. So at this point, in smaller sizes, the body is now ready to use these food values. Then you also need to remember that digestion is further broken down into two types. We have mechanical digestion that involves chewing. So the mechanical happens in the mouth. So this is a physical breaking down of food into smaller pieces with the help of teeth. Then in the same mouth here, we also have the second digestion. So the second digestion is where we have now the chemical digestion. So the chemical digestion has to do with the chemistry. So it is the chemistry part of biology because enzymes here are involved. Then the process of digestion begins with ingestion. So the ingestion is the uptake of food into our mouth. So when the food is placed in our mouth, so in our mouth we have about 3 glands that are responsible for secretion of saliva. So we have glands like here, we have parotides. So we have parotides. Number 2, we have submandibular. Then we also have sublingual. So all these 3 glands are responsible for secretion of saliva. So what is the importance, or what are the importances of saliva? So saliva has several importances, of which we have it contains enzymes that starts the digestion of carbohydrates in our mouth. So remember, digestion of carbohydrate begins in our mouth, and there is the enzyme responsible the amylase. So the amylase is found in the saliva produced by these 3 glands. Then other functions of saliva including softening of food. So let's take, for instance, you are eating a dry food. So before the chemical digestion begins, it needs to be softened. So therefore, the saliva comes into softening that food so that the process of digestion may take place. Then also, the other function of saliva, it helps to reduce the temperature. So in case you are eating something that is very hot, so it needs to make sure that the temperature of that food is brought back to normal so that the enzymes can work properly. Remember, we say enzymes can be denatured by high temperature. And in a case where you are eating something that is very cold, so the saliva also helps to raise the temperature back to normal so that the enzymes can work properly. So that is at least what happens in the mouth. So when the digestion of carbs in the mouth is done, then the food will move through this tube known as esophagus. So we have H known as esophagus. The other name for esophagus is a gullet. And the process by which the food molecule moves along the esophagus is known as peristalsis. So it's a wave-like movement. So muscles are involved. There is contraction and relaxation of muscles. Then the food will reach into the stomach here. So when the food reaches the stomach, the first upper end here, there is a muscle that closes, and another muscle that closes, so that the digestion of proteins may begin in the stomach. So here, if the question comes like what type of digestion occurs in the stomach, so the digestion that occurs in the stomach is for proteins. Then in the stomach we have juice like gastric juice, so gastric juice with enzymes. Then also in the stomach we have acids like HCl, hydrochloric acids, and we also need to know the function or functions of HCl. So acids play roles like killing of unwanted bacteria or things that may be harmful to our body. Then also number two, providing an optimum pH for enzymes to operate in our stomach. So if they ask you to name the acid that is produced, we have HCl, and the function we are saying killing of bacteria that may be eaten with food, and also providing the favorable temperature, not temperature, pH for enzymes to operate. Then also it activates the inactive pepsinogen into active pepsin. So pepsin is an enzyme that works for proteins in our stomach. Then after that there comes this K. So the K is the pancreas, and the pancreas has a leaf-like structure. Now excuse me, pancreas plays two important roles. Number one, it plays a role in exocrine system. So in exocrine system is where we are looking at digestion. It produces the pancreatic juice that helps in completing of digestion in the small intestines. Then the second one, it also plays the role in endocrine system because it has isolate of Langerhans that contain cells like alpha and beta. Then these cells are responsible for producing hormones such as insulin. So the insulin converts the excess glucose into its storage form known as the glycogen when there is too much. Then when there is less of glucose in blood, the glucagon hormone produced by the same pancreas converts the glycogen back to glucose so that there is a required minimum. So that is part of the pancreas, but there is more about pancreas. Then the pancreas has a duct known as the pancreatic duct in which the pancreatic juice passes. Then we have the structure M, which is the liver. Liver has so many functions, like in generating of heat, producing of red blood cells in infants, then also in detoxifications, then for inspections, like it has to inspect if the food is safe for the body. So the liver does all those functions, and also produce the bile salt that works under emulsification. Then we also have this gallbladder. So the gallbladder stores the bile salt produced by the liver. So the liver produces the bile salt, then the gallbladder stores the bile salt. So don't confuse the two. After that, we have the small intestines. So the small intestines made up of three parts. So the first one is duodenum. So duodenum. The second one is jejunum. The third is ileum. So each part of this has a role to play. But for duodenum and jejunum, for completion of digestion. Then for ileum is for absorption. So ileum, that's where now the digested food must be absorbed from the intestine into the bloodstream. And before the food is transported to other parts, the food must go to the liver for inspection Why is inspection important? So that the liver can tell if the food is safe or not safe. Then we have the L, which is the large intestines. So the large intestines is where now the absorption of water occurs and other liquids. And this is where now we have some bacteria that are found there and also in the rectum. And the gas produced by the bacteria during respiration is what causes the smelling of the feces. Okay, so now let's have the first question. Identify the parts labeled H. So H is our esophagus. / gullet. J, stomach. Explain the functions of the part labeled K and L in the digestion. So K is a pancreas, we can say, to produce pancreatic juice. Which contains enzymes that completes digestion. Then what's our L? So L, that's the stomach, larger intestine, to absorb water from the digested food. So label on the figure 2.0 the structure where bowel is stored. So that's a gallbladder. Bowel is stored, this one. So we are told to label with letter X. Then hydrochloric acid is produced with letter Y, that is the lining of the stomach. So we have letter Y. State 1 metabolic function of the parts labeled M. So metabolic function, we can say for detoxification. Describe 2 ailments which can result when structure M is not functioning properly. So when the liver is not functioning properly, we may have diarrhea, then also, since it deals with the storage of glucose, so indirectly we may also have diabetes. Diabetes mellitus. So as we can see, these were questions for this video. So stay tuned for more parts. We are going to have part 3, 4. We'll look at some other questions because we still have some more topics to cover as a revision. Then for those that may want to join our intensive online classes for biology and other subjects, please feel free to reach me on this one. So you can just WhatsApp me on 0962 895804. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.